morning, Paul. This Montreal team has frustrated you guys at times. They handed you your worst loss of the season, yet you're 5-2-0 against them. What does that say about your team?
Montreal and Calgary are the two teams that historically, so for me that means since I've been kind of in Winnipeg, I didn't actually necessarily like our games. The style of game were a challenge, and I think this year we've made some real good strides at adapting our game to different styles of game. The one-off and the 7-1, I think that game might have been coming no matter who the opponent was on that night. I don't think it was specific to it being Montreal, but it's a good team, right? This is a playoff team right now, and they've added a different look to their back end over the last 2 years. They've changed that. It's some young players now that are producing for them. You know, like us, they added some veterans over the year. So it's a good team. I mean, they're too good a team that you're just not going to dominate them in a game, right? You're not going to run them start to finish very probably, just as they, 7-1 game, I guess they did, but they haven't really done it to us either. So we found a way to adapt our games to win games. I don't think that you play Montreal has been off. They had some struggles this year, phenomenal start. Then they fired their coach, and they've had that changeover that's happening now. So they've had lots of action going on here, lots of reason for them to be wired in the games. I would agree with you in that though this would be a team you're not 100% sure what it's going to look like every night. So I still think we're getting used to each other.
Go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I know it was only just the one game on Thursday, but with Montreal having to kind of revamp a little bit, especially up front, did you notice anything different in their style of play at all, or was it still same old from your perspective?
Yeah, I don't think that a team style changes much with a couple of guys out of their lineup. Certainly there wouldn't be adjustments by the coaches who say we'll play differently tonight, so all the basic systems and things don't change from them. I think the biggest impact was the first period. They looked like they were coming off back-to-back, and then the rest of the game it looked like the Montreal Canadiens. So I would expect periods 2 and 3. We didn't care for period 2. We liked our third period, but it'll be a much tighter game in here, and that they'll be ready to go right from the start.
We'll go next to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Thanks, Gregor. Morning, Paul. What stood out about your penalty kill most recently, and also what went into the decision to use Nate Thompson a little bit more in that grouping? Appleton's still getting some reps there when you've had guys in the box, but it seems like you've moved to Thompson in that stretch, which is what you started the year with.
Yeah, you know what? We went on a run so I had Appleton and Lewis coming off the bench second, and we went on a run that there were very few face-offs. So Lowry and Kopp would change, but there weren't a lot of, where Hellebuck or Brassard would stop the puck a minute in, and then Thompson would go. We gave up a goal, I think, kind of in Calgary or maybe in Van. And we got into some faceoffs where Thompson and Lewis went out, and it looked really good, and that was kind of a little bit of a run, so I just left it. Right, that was the whole idea. They got going. Mason's played really well for us. There's hard minutes there on that line, usually against the other team's best. The idea of spreading more minutes around was something that I liked, that we were trying to do. How do we even up the minutes for a hockey team? So when Thompson went out with Lewis, and some of it was just face-offs happened, so he went out with them, and they were good. And then I just left it.
We'll go back to Scott Billick from the Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Paul, two-parter. Just on the lineup tonight, does it stay the same as the game ended on Thursday there, or what's the Thursday?
Correct.
And yeah, okay. Hellebuck starts, I suppose.
Correct.
Okay, and then just on adaptation, I asked you earlier in the season about your team accepting the game at hand and that sort of thing. You've done a good job at that this season. Is adaptation the same in that regard? Is that just a different word that you would use for that, or what has made your team, I guess, so malleable in games to kind of adapt to what's going on?
I think it's maturity and it's experience. So we have a game that we want to play every night, right? Those things aren't going to change. but the effectiveness of everything you do, it looks different against different teams. So when you get to the point okay, just in the offensive zone, there are teams out there that you can really control the puck in the offensive zone almost one-on-one, right? The tight turns, and you can move your D around. And when it looks good and it's right, you're going, oh, that's fantastic. Let's just do that every night. Except a team like Montreal here, and we see a little bit more of that kind of in the East, they're really trying to kill that play as fast as they can. They've got 2 or 3 guys in the corner. The puck's got to move really quickly. So it's a different attack, a different style, kind of, if you will, of offense that's more effective, and you got to be able to flip back and forth to do those. So your game isn't going to look the same on each night, but that doesn't mean you're not playing your game. So understanding that there are certain teams that their style of game are going to impact yours. You have the things that you want to do that you're trying to do every single night, for sure. But the adjustments that you make mentally into how this game is going to feel is really, really important. I think it's just a matter of you got guys with a little bit more games under their belt. They understand that not every game is going to look the same, and it doesn't mean that you're not doing the right things.
Go back to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Paul, talking to Paul Stastny yesterday, specifically about that number 1 power play unit, he felt they were maybe trying to overdo it a little bit too much the first full power play they had, and then settled down to a more basic style the second go around. I'm guessing that's what you would favor as a coaching staff, as well as these guys kind of get used to, even though it's just one player, it's Blake Wheeler that they're trying to replace.
Well, there are basic puck movements that you can make on a power play if you're not under a tremendous amount of pressure. So if there's tremendous pressure, it's all about puck support and getting it off the wall and trying to attack. And then when you're playing against a team that will settle into a more passive kill, either you've had the puck in their end for a time, or that's just part of the way they kill. There are 2 ways to try to score goals, right? Just some basic movements around, and you take what's given, or you're looking for that next layer, right? You're looking for that seam where you bypass a guy a little bit more advanced, let's say. So we would like to start always with the basic. We'd like to just move the puck around, easy passes, if you will, and not try to get too creative early. I thought maybe in that first one, what Paul would be alluding to is the obvious option we didn't use. We tried to, something a little more creative, something a little more advanced maybe, and that usually doesn't work until you get them running, until you get them out of position, and that's where that kind of more advanced, where you bypass a guy and it goes backdoor and those kind of things. I would agree with him. The second time we went out, we moved the puck very simply, a little bit quicker, had good control of it, and then took basic options, had 2 really good chances to score. The first one, I thought we were forcing things and jamming things, and we just lost possession and had to break it out again, and that might be the excuse me. The part of the power play, in some ways, that you miss the most is that Willard Shifley come up the right side of the ice with so much speed, it really forces the other teams to make a decision on who they're covering. And then when Blake's not in the lineup, they don't have those same decisions they have to make.
Back to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Well, we talked so much this year about how things are different. What are the final few days before the trade deadline like during a pandemic season?
Well, it's different home and road. If you're at home, there's lots of people in your building, right? All your pro scouts are in. There's a big group of people, and you're kind of going back and forth between offices, seeing what's going on for the coaches anyway, and being available. And then they'll come down and say, hey, check out these 3 guys. We've heard they're available. So we would just watch a ton of video on players, that a new name, if it crops up, if it will. Here, we're on the road, but there's also, not a lot of people here. It's all done on video, or virtually rather, and you just don't spend as much time. So you spend more time on the phone. The fact that you're playing every second night and it's a little more condensed, I think that changes a little bit. Other than that, that would be about it.